Hi, this is Kate from Izzalicious Designs. Today I thought we'd make my little tiny tot zombie, and he's really cute. I really like him. I think he's a sweet one. So what you're going to need, I have used the olive green Rainbow Loom Bands for his skin. I've used white, red for his tie, navy blue for the trousers, and black for his shoes, and for his mouth, and just to do a few tufts of hair on the top of his head. I've used the polyfill stuffing. I find that really good, and I've tried to find two different size buttons for his eyes. They're about 1.5 centimeters. This one's a tiny bit smaller, for his eyes. Now, the other thing you're going to need are stitch markers. Now, you can buy the stitch markers. These are the clover, the two different types of clover ones that I like. One is a locking one, the other is not. And if you're getting into Loomigurumi in a big way, these are quite a good investment. They're not very expensive at all. But if you don't have those, you can use a C-clip, or you can use an S-clip. You can use a bobby pin, you can use a safety pin or a paper clip. Anything like that would work perfectly fine. A threader of some sort to get your bands through your little buttons here. I use a metal threader that I made from a twisty tie, and they're very easy. I have a video on how you can make a little metal threader from a twisty tie. I don't know if you can see it. Probably easier to see it here. So you can use a twisty tie and scrape the material off it so that you're just left with the wire inside. Bend it over, and that can be your little threader. So you will need one of those as well to put your bands through your buttons. So what we're going to do, we're going to get started by doing the things that are the add-ons. Now the add-ons, the only things you add on for this little guy are his arms and his tie. So we're going to do those first. We're going to make an arm. I've already made one. You're going to make one. I'm going to show you how, and then you'll make another one. So I'm just going to make one. You're going to make two. And then the other thing we're going to make together is his little tie with the cuffs here, the collar for his tie. Alright, I've made one, but I'll show you how to do that. So let's get started. We're going to start with our olive green. We're going to do a magic ring of 8. So count out 8 bands. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And either one for your hook or one for your loom, whichever you choose to do. Now, if you are quite proficient at doing your magic ring on your hook, please do so. I actually do mine that way. It's much quicker. To show you, I do like to use a loom. This is a hook only design. You only need to use your loom if you need help to do the magic ring. Okay, so I'm going to stretch it out. I'm going to twist it into a figure 8, wrap it back once, figure 8, wrap it back again. So you have 3 little loops. Okay, and we're going to poke our hook down and do our magic ring with 8. So 1. If you are not familiar with the stitches that we use for Loomigurumi, have a look at my playlist for beginner's guide to Loomigurumi. There's a playlist I have for tips and tricks of Loomigurumi, and it teaches you all the stitches that I've learned so far, and it'll show you things like how to work in the back post, the front post, the inside loop, the outside loop, how to do a magic ring, how to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, so that when you are following standard crochet patterns you will know the types of stitches that you need to do, and I find that very helpful. So we have a magic ring of 8. Take that off your loom. Let's try not to lose that stitch. There we go. Spread it out so it's evenly spaced. Get rid of that. Now we're going to be doing single crochets, and we're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to do 5 rounds of olive green and 3 rounds of white, and I'm putting them here so that I know what round I'm on. Okay, we're not going to be doing increases or decreases, it's just single crochet. So we're going to go through the first stitch here and take your first one from this pile and do your first single crochet. use your stitch marker and pop that on to mark that that is your first stitch. In the next stitch, I'm going to put my bands just over here, you're going to do a single crochet, and in the next one a single crochet. No increases. It is going to be 8 stitches around for the entire time. Okay, we're not increasing it to 16, it's just going to stay at 8. Back to the beginning. For your second round, take one from this pile, move your stitch marker, and around we go again. And I should say that even though these are Loomigurumi patterns or designs, they work equally well if you make them in yarn. And back to the beginning, so I'm going to go through again, take my next one from that little pile. Now these tiny top figures in total take about, well, I'm counting using my Baymax, my little Baymax one as the example, it was about 665 bands, all in white. Now obviously if you're going to be using what we're doing, which is some green, some white, some blue, some red, that's going to be different, but in total your little figure is going to be about 665, unless you're putting things like ears or, you know, capes. I've done an Elsa doll and in this style, and haven't done the tutorial on that one yet, but you know, she has a little cape, so that's going to be extra. My rule of thumb is to always make sure I have 2 bags of any given colour that I might be using for a Loomigurumi project, unless I'm doing something massive like my Easter Bunny or the Izzy Busy doll. Now you do not have to stuff the arms. The arms hold their shape quite well. You can put stuffing in them if you want to, but they look just as good if you don't. Oops, I'm busy unravelling my stitches through the first stitch. This is my last round using the olive green. And as I mentioned before, you should still have 8 stitches. You shouldn't have increased or decreased any. We're now going to start our 3 rounds of white. So we're doing a colour change, so go through your first stitch, take your first band and do a slip stitch. Okay, and you are going to do the knot to secure that and place your stitch marker on there. Now we can start going around using white bands. So we've already done the slip stitch in here, so we're going into this stitch, the second stitch. Now for our second round, do you see here this little stitch here, okay, the one that's at an angle, is the slip stitch. We're not going into that little slip stitch, we're going into the stitch that is the actual stitch. So let's make sure you can see very clearly, not this little one here, but the one next to it. And this is for round 2. Do your normal single crochet, so that's the first one. Move your stitch marker, and round we go again. And our last round, we're going to go through the first stitch, pull your band through, move your stitch marker. I like to sometimes just spread these out just to make sure that I'm finding the exact stitch that I need, and around we go again for this last round. Count your stitches if you'd like to, so that you know you have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 is on my hook. Now what we're going to do, tie off just with a little loop like this. Okay, I'm going to go through my first stitch, grab my band back, pull it in like a slip stitch, and there we go. And I'm going to take that off. I'm going to pop this on my little stitch holder or marker until we need to use those. Okay, and as I said, you can stuff them with stuffing. You don't have to. They work just as well if you don't. These ones are not. Okay, and I think they look just as fine. So those are the 2 little arms. Next we're going to work on the tie, and that's this. So to start our little tie, we're going to take a single red band and wrap it once and twice. We're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We're going to go through the first chain from our hook. You don't count the one that's on your hook. Go into this next one beside your hook here, and we'll do a single crochet all the way down till we get to the end cap again. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now this little loop here is where I would put my stitch marker or my clip. Okay, if you're going to use a clip, just pop your little C clip on here. I'm never very good at using C clips or S clips. There we go. Alright, you're going to pop that there just to make sure we don't lose it. Now we're going to go back down to the end where we have where we started, and you can see that this stitch here is where we bent it over. We're going to go through that, okay, the end one on the very end, and we're going to do, we're going to turn it over so that this is facing away from us. Okay, that's facing to the left, and we're going to do a single crochet and another single crochet. So you have 2 single crochets, and now we're going to do a 3rd single crochet in that bottom stitch. This is going to sort of be the end of our tie, and then we go up the other side doing single crochets. So we've done 3 in that first one at the bottom of the tie, and then 1 in each of these stitches coming back up. Oops. Let's not unravel everything, Kate. Okay, now here's my end cap. Can you see my little end cap here? So I need to go through that stitch, the stitch that the end cap is on, through here. And that's my last stitch. And there's my other side of it. Okay, so I've got the end cap in the middle here. We're going to snip that off. Alright, so very carefully with a pair of scissors, you're just going to snip the end cap off, which is that bit in the middle, because you don't need that anymore. Now, holding these like this, you can see that this is the centre here. Alright, can you see that? So you're going to go through the centre. You've got your stitch on here, your stitch on the hook, on the C-clip. So go through the centre, and we're going to do a little puff stitch. So take a single band, pull it through, and leave it on your hook. Go back through that same spot. Do it again. Pull the band through and leave it on your hook. Again. Pull the band through, leave it on your hook, and one more time. So you've done this 4 times. And leave it on your hook. And then you're going to take the little side that's got the little loop that's got your C-clip on, or your S-clip, or whatever you've used. Put that on your hook as well, and remove the C-clip. Okay, so you've got all of those on your hook like this. We're going to take 2 red bands, and you're going to slide all of these loops onto these 2 red bands. And I turn my hook so that it faces down, so the hook part faces down, so I don't snag any of those. And this is how we're doing his little tie. Now, when you do a tie, you want little collars either side, so we're going to do the collars either side as well. I'm going to do the collar on my hook. Start with a single white band, wrap it once and twice and 3 times, and you're going to slide that onto a pair of white bands like this. Now in the middle here we're going to take a single band, don't reclaim, you've got that just hanging there, wrap once and twice and take another one, wrap once and twice and then reclaim. So that is going to be one side of our collar. Now we want to put one the other side as well, don't we? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a white band, I'm going to take a pair. Did I take a pair or one? Yeah, I take a pair. I thought I did. Take a pair of white bands, and we're going to slide these on. Okay, so slide on like this. Slide your tie on as well. Alright, and now we're just going to hold that like this. Now, at this stage, you could use a holding hook to hold these, or you could use, if you've got a little stitch marker, you can put both of these loops on, but you want to hold this in some way, shape or form. So whether you use a pencil, okay, you're going to poke a pencil through and hold those on like this while we make the other side. The other side, so we're going to make a single, wrap it around, slide onto a pair, move down, a single band, wrap once and twice, a single band, wrap once and twice, reclaim, and now we're going to take this and take one side off, the side that doesn't have the collar, and you're going to slide that on, all of those loops on, so that you have only the 2 loops of that band left. Take it off, and this is how we have done our collar and tie. Alright, and we're going to attach that to him. You can leave this on a holding hook. As you can see, I've got little stitch markers holding mine. You can leave it on a holding hook, or you can put it on stitch markers. It's completely up to you how you want to store that until we're ready. But I'm going to put mine on a little pencil until we're ready to use that. Alright, so we've done our red bands, we can put those away. We've done our 2 arms, we've done our tie. We're going to start by doing his head. Again, if you need to use your loom to do your magic ring, that's absolutely fine. we're going to do a magic ring of 6. So count out your bands, 2, 4, 6, and 1 to start with. So I'm going to put that on my hook, wrap once and twice, and I'm going to show you how to do this on my hook. Pop the next one on, slide that over and reclaim, and pinching your little end cap, those 3 little loops, do your little slip knot. Then poke it back through the 3 little loops and drag back your second band. Pinch those, and I broke my nails yesterday, so they're my pinching nails, so it's a bit tricky for me. And then back we go again. Pull through, one over the other and join. Back through again and join. Back through again and one more time. So as I said, if you're comfortable doing your magic ring that way, it is faster and whatnot, and it gives you a smaller hole here, but if you do need to use your loom, go for it. We're going to do a round of increase, so put your hook through the first stitch, drag your first band back, and let's put a stitch marker on it, like so, and do a second stitch in that stitch. So we're doing 2 stitches in each of these stitches, so we're increasing from 6 stitches to 12 stitches. Our next round we're going to do a single crochet followed by an increase. So through your first stitch, do your single crochet, move your stitch marker, and around we go, doing an increase, and then a single crochet, then an increase, then a single crochet, then an increase, and that's the pattern that you're going to do until you get back to your stitch marker. And we finish on an increase. We're next going to do 2 single crochets followed by an increase. So here's our first one. Move your stitch marker, second, and an increase. and finish on an increase. So now we're going to do 8 rounds with single crochet only. So I'm going to put my bands here so we know which round we're on. Now, on our 6th, 7th and 8th round, we're going to do our mouth. Okay, so I'm going to put a black band on top of those last 3, so we know exactly which ones, we won't forget. So single crochets, let's take our first one. And we're going to do single crochet all the way around, and we'll do that for 6 rounds, and then I will join you back and we'll do round 6, 7 and 8. So I'm sorry, we'll do it for 5 rounds, and I'll join you back for round 6, 7 and 8 to show you how to put the mouth on. But all we're doing now is just single crochet all the way around. Okay, and when we get to, as I said, 6, 7 and 8, I'll join you back and we'll do the mouth together. Alright, so I've done my 5 rounds. I'm going to go through my first stitch here with my green band, and I'm going to move my stitch marker to it like this. Now this is the time when we really want to put the eyes on. So using the magic ring here, I'm going to squidge this down, and I'm going to have my stitch marker at the back, and I'm going to work out where I would like my eyes to be. I'm going to put one there, and I'm going to put the other about here. Okay, now to thread these, I'm using my metal threader. I will link the tutorial so that you can see how to make one of these in the description below. So I've got my metal threader here. I've put my band through the metal threader like this, and I'm just going to poke my metal threader through one hole of the button, and then I'm going to go to the diagonal and poke it back through. Oh, that's not diagonal, that's side by side. Let's do that. And I'm going to do the same with the other one. I've already done the same with the other one. I've done 4 on that one. That's just fine. That's perfectly fine like that. And I'm going to position these about here. So what I'm going to do, I want one here. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to take one side of the eye and pull it through. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the other end here and pull it through the band. And then I'm going to splay that open and pop through and over my button. Okay, then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now, as I said, I've got 4 little loops on this one just to make it look a bit different. What I'll do, I'll go through, and you don't have to have 2, you can have 1 there, it doesn't matter. I'm going to pull 2 bands through at the same time. So there's 2. I'm pulling 2 through. I'm going to put the other 2 on my on my hook and pull those through. If you need to use fingers, do that. Splay the 2 bands open and pop through the button. Okay, now if I was to start doing, I could start doing my mouth here. Okay, if you have a look, I've got 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I've got 1, 2 and 3. This head will be a little rounder than this one. This one is a little more oblong, okay, and this one is probably, if I'm going the way I am, going to be a little bit more round. I don't have a problem with that. I'm going to do it as a little round head this time. If you want it longer, add a couple more rounds of single crochet. Okay, you could do an extra 2 rounds of single crochet if you wanted to. I'm not. I'm going to leave it round. So what I'm going to do, if you, again, in the center like this, and what I'm going to say is I want my mouth to be here, here and here. I have to pick 3 spots. So this is going to be the center bit, okay, and I've gone between the eyes. I'm trying to go between the eyes. I'm going to take a black band and I'm going to use it as a marker band for positioning, just so I know where I want this mouth to be. Okay, now I could do it 2 here, but I'm going to do 3. Like that. I might do 4 along the top here, and it's whatever looks good to you. Okay, I'm going to do 4 because that seems to be where I've put my eyes, but you can adjust that. On this one I've only done 3 at the top because that fit nicely in here, so I'm going to do 4 across the top here for this one. But if it fits in nicely between the eyes, just do 3. Here's our second stitch. Oops. Third, fourth, fifth, and 6th. Now the 7th stitch I'm going to do, this one here, I'm going to do it in black. So we need to do a slip stitch. So pull it through and add your green loop and slip stitch. The next stitch is a normal black single crochet. And then here we have the little slip stitch, and then the stitch next to it is our real stitch. We're going to do that in green. So we have to do a slip stitch because it's a colour change. Like so. And we do green. And green. And in this stitch, what we have to be careful of is we want this to pull across. This is going to be black. So pull through your black, do a slip stitch, and then here we have the slip stitch and your real stitch. This is going to be the real stitch, pull through, do a single crochet with black, and then we have to do a slip stitch in green for the colour change. Okay, so it's looking like this. Alright, and let's go around single crochet in the green until we get to our stitch marker again. So we're going to move our stitch marker onto our 8th round, first stitch, and now this time we're only putting 1 black stitch either side of the mouth. And you do it in the last stitch of the green. Oops. So here's my last stitch of the green here. I'm going to do a black slip stitch, skip the slip stitch, go into the next black stitch, and we're using green, so we have to do another slip stitch. It gets a bit confusing here. And then green in this one. Then as you see we have the colour change, so we have another slip stitch. We skip the slip stitch, go into the real stitch. If you do go into the slip stitch and do a stitch in it, you're going to increase how many stitches you have in your round. So that's why you sort of want to avoid doing that, because otherwise it'll get bigger and bigger. Now here we have a colour change, so there's the slip stitch and here's the real stitch. this is our last black here, so we need to do a black band, and it's a slip stitch because you've done a colour change, but there's another slip stitch here, so go into the real stitch with your green, and again colour change, so you're doing another slip stitch, and then we go around until we get to our stitch marker. The colour changes can be a little bit finicky, can't they? And this is my first stitch for my next round. I am going to do my first stitch as a single crochet, and I'm going to move my stitch marker to it like so. Let's have a look at his little mouth. There's his little mouth looking all miserable. Okay, so now I'm going to do an extra round of single crochet in just the green. Okay, now be careful of your slip stitches that you have here, so go through your real stitch. There's the colour change, so you've gone from green to black, so this first little one that's at an angle is a slip stitch. Go into your real stitch, which is the one next to it, do your single crochet. Again, we have a colour change here from black to green, so this green stitch is the slip stitch. Go into your real stitch, and let's do that until we get to our next colour change. So this is our last green, so you do a normal single crochet in there. The immediate stitch next to it here is a slip stitch. Ignore it, go into your real stitch, which is the black stitch here. And as you can see, right next to that is another slip stitch. Ignore it, go into the real stitch. And I'm back at the beginning. This is my first stitch. I'm going through with a single crochet, and I'm going to move my stitch marker to it like that. So here's his little face. Okay, now if you want to put the hair on top now, you can. All I did was worked out from where the magic ring was, and I literally just pulled a couple of bands through at the same time. Pull one through or two. I pulled one through at the same time. One only. And pull it tight. And then do that in a couple of spots. You can then, on the bit that is the long loop, trim to the desired length that you want. You can just cut them in half, but I think that's a bit long, so I trim like that. So there's the little sprouting hair on the top of his head. Okay, next what we're going to do is start with our decreases. Okay, so pop your hook back in. We're finished with the black for the minute, so we'll get rid of those. We're going to, because we did with the increases 2 single crochets and an increase, we're going to start by doing 2 single crochets and a decrease. So that was number 1. This is number 2. The decrease, you're going to go through the back loop of the next 2 stitches like this, and then draw a single band through the 2 of them, reclaim, and 1 through the other, and then do 2 single crochets. Oops. 1, 2, and again, back loop, pull the band through, then and finish on a decrease. Go through your first stitch as a single crochet, and then followed by a decrease. So this round is single crochet, decrease. So we did a single crochet, we do a decrease. Single crochet, decrease, single crochet, oops, and a decrease, single crochet, and decrease, single crochet, and a decrease, single crochet, and you finish on a decrease. Like so. Now, spread these out so that they're evenly spaced. You might have bands that just need a little bit of, sometimes if you just wiggle them a little bit, they sort of, the tension adjusts so that you don't see a knobbly sort of knobbly knot there. So this is our little face. Now to do the neck is the next spot. So to do the neck, what we're going to do is work in the post, okay, and to do that we're going to push our hook through from the back to the front of the stitch, and then push it back out from the front to the back and get this little post. And we're going to do one right here as our first, and I'm going to move my stitch marker to that, and then again go through the stitch from the back to the front underneath it. So this is the stitch, and this is the next stitch. Come up like that, So you're not actually going through the stitch, you're going through the little bit underneath it. And around we go, doing this. This is the post. If you need to look at a tutorial on how to do that, again in my playlist you will see in the tips and tricks for Loomigurumi that I show you how to work in the front post and the back post. This just helps you change the direction of your stitching. I think it also gives a bit of strength to the neck area doing it this way. Like so. Now, I'm not going to go through this next one because my next stitch is right here. Okay, and what I need to do is change to white for his shirt. So I'm going to do a single crochet in my stitch, not in the post. Single crochet, but I have to do a slip stitch, not a single crochet, I'm sorry, so slip stitch like that, and I'm going to move my stitch marker to this spot. Alright, now I'm going to do a single crochet followed by an increase. So this is my first stitch. In the second stitch I'm doing my increase. 1 and 2. And do a single followed by an increase. A single, oops, in the right stitch, followed by an increase, and this is the pattern that we do until we get back to our stitch marker. Increase, single, and we will finish on an increase. I'm going to go through the next stitch with a single crochet. Now this is a colour change, going from green to white, so this is your actual stitch, that's just your slip stitch. Go through your real stitch, do a single crochet and change your stitch marker. Now spread this out just a little bit. This is where you can add the tie to the neck right here. So what we're going to do, work out where you want one side. So here's the center, these two are going to be the center, so I'm going through this one, then I'm going to skip 2 and go through the next one. I'm going to pull this side with the 2 loops through this stitch, okay, through here like that, and then getting my stitch marker out of the way, I'm going to go through a couple of these little loops here, and with a white band pull back and tie those together in a slip knot. I can take that stitch marker off. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm skipping, this was the one we just worked on here, I'm skipping 1 and 2, so I'm going into this one here, and I'm going to put the other side on my hook, take my stitch marker off, pull it through, get a couple of the little white stitches, the little white V's, grab a tie-off band, pull through, and we need to do these in a slip knot, nice and tight. Those will be hidden inside your creation. You're not going to see that, okay? And we're still going to have white coming down from here. So at this point we could actually put some stuffing in his little head. So take whatever stuffing you're using. I use the polyfill, the fibre that you can get from craft shops. You could use tissues, you could use cotton wool balls, you can use toilet paper, you can use stuffing from a pillow or a cushion or anything like that, just to give your creation some shape and some squish. Now the trick also is to not overstuff. If you overstuff, you'll pull your stitches apart and you will find that you can see the stuffing through it and it doesn't look very nice. Okay, so don't overstuff. So there we go, I've got some stuffing in there. Now what we need to do is 4 rounds of single crochet with white. So I've laid my bands out, and you want to make sure that the tie is out and that the bands that you use to tie off are in. And it's just single crochet all the way around, and you're doing 4 rounds of that. Make sure you go through each stitch. Ring has slipped around. Oops, through both loops. Back to the beginning, going through my first stitch, grabbing my first little band and changing my stitch marker to that spot. Okay, so here we go, we're working down. This is his little tie. Now, if you need the tie to sit a little bit higher to his neck, you can, you know, it does sort of if you put your finger, you can budge it up there. But if you need it to actually secure, go through the center here, and all you're going to do is grab at the back here, and you have to split where the 2 red bands are. Grab one of these little bands here and just pull it back through those, through this, go through the other side, pull it in like that, and again you can just do a little slip knot here and just pull it tight. I've got one of the other bands on my hook, but just pull it tight in here like that, and that will keep it up to his neck so that it's not looking loose. Alright, and these are just going to stay in here. It really doesn't matter. So let's keep going until we have done 4 rounds of single crochet in white, and then I'm going to show you how we add the arms. I'll meet you back when we've done 4. So I'm back, and I've done my 4 white rounds, and I have attached 1 arm. So let's put the other arm on. Again, we're going to pinch this so we don't lose our stitch. Pop your hook through, remove the stitch marker, scoot down 1 and 2, and the same on the other side, 1 and 2. So you've got 4 little loops on your hook. Pull a single band through and do a slip knot. Don't join them together. And then through the next 2, so you've got 1 and 2, so that's here, and 1 and 2, that's about here. It doesn't have to be an exact science, but you know, try and get there as good as you can. So here we are, here's my 3. Now I can see that I've got this one is a little larger than the other. I'm going to try and sort that out. That might look a bit better. Let's see how that looks. That's a little nicer. And again, so I'm looking at this one, and I sort of went online with where the mouth finishes. So I'm going to try that here. So I'm going to go to this spot here. I'm going to pinch this with my fingers. I'm going to go through my first, let's see where I am here. Is my first one going to be there? Probably. And I'll pull my first band through, keep it on my hook, go through the next hole, pull the middle band through, go through the next hole, pull the third one through, and then again we pull these one over the other and find a spot a little bit further away that you can just put a single band through as your tie off, like so. And there we have his other arm attached. Now we're going to change from doing white for his shirt to blue for his pants. We're going to do 2 rounds of blue. So this is my last stitch in white. For my first stitch we need to go through that first stitch and change to blue. We're doing a colour change, so it is a slip stitch like so. And put your stitch marker on there, and we will toddle around using the navy. And you're just doing single crochets. It's almost like he's breakdancing on his head, isn't it? Now just remember, when you come up to your first stitch again, you did have a colour change, so there's a slip stitch that you need to ignore, and you need to go into the real stitch, not the little angled slip stitch. So this is my last stitch in white, and then here's my colour change, my slip stitch in blue, and here's my real stitch. Okay, I'm going to adjust the camera. I think we're a little high there. There we go. That's a little better. Take my stitch marker off. So now we have our second round, and it's just a single crochet. Move your stitch marker back there, and around we go again with the blue. Oops, I can't hold this band. Band practice is something so completely different for us loomers, isn't it? Now we want to make sure that we have at least 2 rounds in the blue. here's my last stitch, like so. Now this is my first stitch, and take my stitch marker off. Okay, my first stitch, I'm going to go through and do a single crochet. Now my next stitch is here, and if you look, it lines up to the center of my little dude. So I am going to do my trouser split here. So I'm going to do a slip stitch like so. I'm going to chain 1, 2, oh, I'm going to drop everything. Let's try that again. Chain 2 and chain 3, keeping this angled correctly, so it's angled this way. Okay, this is how we want to bring it forward, or bring it to the back, I should say, of his trousers. So I'm pinching this, and I'm going to work out, if I squeeze this shut, where's the midway point? And for me, I think it is about there. If I squeeze this shut, that looks to be the center. I'm going to take one side of that band, okay, the closest one to me, pull it through both loops. Oh, hang on, make sure I'm only going through the 2 loops. There we go. Pull it through the 2 loops, reclaim the other side, one over the other. So this is going to be the split that I have for my legs. I'm going to go through this first stitch. Now I'm going to put my stitch marker here, okay, just for a second. I'm going to go through my first stitch here and do a single crochet, and I'm going to call that number 1, and that's where I'm going to put my stitch marker. Okay, and I'm going to go around this little hole that we have made for his leg, in each stitch I do a single crochet. Now as I get to the center here, this is a stitch I go through, and you're just working on this side to start with. We're at the, let's get that out the way. We're at the center here. This is where it's difficult to see with the blue bands. This one splits. You've got one side here, one side here. You're going through your slip stitch, okay, and doing a single crochet, and then we go to the center here, and you're going through these 2 loops this side, and then again through this 2 loops on this side of the intersection of the trousers. Now you can see that I'm back to the beginning here. Okay, I just did that. I'm going to go through my first stitch again and do a second round, so I have to move my stitch marker, and again we're going to go around in blue, it is tricky to see when you're working with the darker colours. Hopefully you can see it on camera, it's not too dark. Now when we get to the stitch marker again, like this one, I'm going to change to black and do a round of black. This is my last stitch in blue. I'm going to go through my first stitch and with a black band do a slip stitch and change my stitch marker to this black band, and now I go all the way around doing one round of single crochet in black. My last stitch in black. I'm going to go through the first stitch and with a single crochet, and I'm just going to move my stitch marker to that, and I'm going to stop at this point on this leg. I'm not going to seal this leg up yet because we need to stuff it. We need to put stuffing in, so I'm going to build up this little leg now. Alright, starting from the front. Okay, again I'm going to skip the part that we have in the middle here, and I'm going to start, if you pull it to the side, you see here, I'm going to start right in that one. Okay, single band, single crochet, and I'm going to put my stitch marker on it, and around we go. We have 2 rounds to do in blue and a round in black, and then we stuff. I have to say, I hate attaching limbs. I hate attaching arms and legs and necks and everything, so I've really tried to make this little character one where the limbs are very easy to do. So pull it towards that. I'm going through the little slip stitch here on the side, on the inside leg, and then we're into the 2 on the side. To build up the crotch area, and there's two loops. There we go, these 2 here, and then if I look carefully, yep, there's my first stitch here. So I go through my first stitch and I'm going to put my stitch marker on there and do another round of navy blue, and then a round of black. Oops. Make sure you go through both loops. Oopsie. I'm back to my first stitch. I now need to change to black for the single round black for the shoe, so it's a slip stitch. Move my stitch marker, and around we go. And we're just doing one round, and then we will be at the same level as our other leg. And I'm going to go through the first stitch. Now if you look here, there's my slip stitch for my colour change. This is my first stitch. I'm going to do the same as I did for the other leg, a single crochet, and move my stitch marker to that stitch, like so. Okay, so they're the same length. You can see that they are equal. We need to stuff a bit of stuffing down to fill his tummy and his little legs. So again, the polyfill fibre that I use, I'm just going to go down one leg first, and you do want to push this down to his neck. We filled the head with stuffing, but you want to push that as far as you can into his little tummy area, all back here. Get a bit more. Stuff some down this side as well. Now it's always better to understuff than overstuff. And I think that that is going to be enough without pulling the stitches. You can already see that you can see some of the stuffing through these stitches, so you want to sort of just rearrange it a bit so that the gaps between your stitches are not too huge. Maybe push the end of my hook down here a bit and stuff it up to the head. There we go. Now we're going to do a stitch on the inside here, so I'm going to put my hook through, and we're going to work on the post again, and it's on the inside post here. Okay, and what we're going to do, so you have your stitch here, go through under the stitch and then come back under the stitch, and we are doing a post stitch here. This is an inside post, or the front post, I guess you can call it as well. And it's a single crochet. Now if you wanted to have left your stitch marker on, you could to see where you are at the beginning or not, but I can sort of tell because it's curved inwards. So now I'm going through my first stitch. Now I'm going to go through both loops. I'm doing decreases. I'm not going to just do the backside loop. I'm going through both loops, okay? And I'm going to do a single, oh, come here. I'm going to do a single crochet to start with. That's a slip knot. Telling you fibs here. So single crochet to start with, and then we'll go through both loops. So here's the first stitch and there's my second stitch, and we do a decrease, and you're just going to do decreases all the way around until we have no more space to do a decrease, and we'll do a tie off. And it is fiddly. This is a small area to be working in. And this might be my last one. Let's see. That's my last decrease, and then I'm going to go through this stitch here and do a slip stitch, tie off, and I will move the tie-off band inside the leg, pull it back in like so. Okay, so you have these little feet like that. Let's do the other side. So through my stitch, remember we're working on the post, so under the stitch and back through. Under the stitch, take this off, I don't need this right now. Oops. Come here, you. There we go. So there's my post stitch, and now I'm going to do my decreases. I'm going to do single crochet, and now I do decreases. So decrease and a decrease, and decrease, and decrease, and I'm going to tie this off with a tie-off band, pull that tight, stretch it out a little bit, and again go through the back here, push my hook up, grab the tail end of that tie-off band and pull it back, stuff that back in, and there we have our little zombie. I think he's rather cute. This, as I said, this one has got a rounder head. This one has got a little longer head, but I don't think it really matters. And as I said, I showed you how you can make the head a little longer. They do stand up if you angle them correctly, which I'm not doing at the minute. There you go, 5 seconds. If you get his feet, if you sort of splay his feet out a little bit, it makes it easier for him to stand up. But there he is. There's my little zombie. So happy Halloween. Hope you have a good one. Take care. Bye.